Welcome to this year's Android Development Workshop hosted by Women in Computer Science, or WICS for short. My name is Sammy Lin, and I will be guiding you through a basic introduction to Android development. Now, I know my microphone is not the best, and there will probably be a lot of white noise, which I apologize for, but it works, so I'll be using it. So, what is Android? Android is a mobile operating system based on Linux. Android OS is a free and open source software and was acquired by Google in 2005. Today, there are over 2.5 billion users worldwide and counting. To get started with Android development, it is important that you either know Java, Kotlin, or C++. These are the main languages used to code Android applications. In this workshop, we will be using Java. Here are some Android fun facts. Each version of Android has been updated with names of sweet treats in alphabetical order. Here, as you can see, Android 1.5 is called Cupcake, and Android 8.0 is Oreo. Another fun fact. The Android mascot is actually informally known as Bugdroid, not Android. This is what the Android development team called it, but it was never officially announced. The Android OS was originally built for digital cameras, not mobile phones. Now I want to talk about some Android features which most of you guys already know because most of you guys have phones and know how they work, but just in case anybody doesn't, I want to go over it. Android's default user interface is mainly on direct manipulation. It responds to touch sensitivity like swiping, tapping, pinching, etc. There's also a status bar, which is the home of the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, battery, service, time, and date symbols. You can find this bar at the very top of the screen. It is also where notifications are displayed. At the bottom of the screen, you will find navigation buttons that either take you back a screen, to the home screen, or through an app list. There are many other Android features that I won't be getting into in this workshop, but this is a general gist. Setting up Android Studio. So to program Android applications, we will need to install and set up Android Studio. Scan this QR code or type in that link into your browser and it'll take you to a page that sort of looks like the screenshot that I have here. Make sure that you download the corresponding package to your device. So if you have a Windows, download the recommended Windows version. And if you have a Mac, download that version, and so on and so forth. So once you have Android Studio fully installed, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. Now, don't worry about all the junk on the left. Yours should be empty, so don't worry about that. But before we create a project, we need to configure some things in the settings, which I will guide you through right now.
Okay, so the first thing we want to do before we create a project is we need to do some configurations. So if we click this button, click SDK Manager, this will appear. Let it load for a bit. Alright, so these are the Android versions that I have installed on my laptop. I don't have every single one of them, but this should be enough for this specific workshop. So pause the video if you need to, get all of these, and then unpause it when you're done. So after that, you want to click Show Package Details, and it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. And you want to make sure that you check off Android SDK platform for every single Android version that there is. And also, if there is an option to check off Google APIs, specifically this one, not these up here, don't worry about these, make sure to check it off. So I'll just scroll down slowly and you guys can copy the check marks I have here for reference. Pause the video if you need to So after that, go into SDK tools and get these. Oops. And SDK update sites should look like this. Alright. Now when you're done with everything, click OK, and we can finally create our new project by clicking this button over here. We want an empty activity, and we need to title our application. I'm going to name it Carrot Clicker App. Make sure that the language is in Java, and I'm using the Marshmallow SDK. You could probably pick a different one, but I like Marshmallow just because it's compatible with most devices and it's not too old of a version like Jelly Bean. So Marshmallow. Okay, now we click finish and we are taken to a screen that sort of looks like this. This side is loading, so we will wait for that to load. Alright, awesome. So everything is loaded in. So the first thing I want you to do is go up to this button over here on the top right, AVD Manager. Click that. Now for you guys, it'll be empty, so it'll look something like this. Let me delete this for a second. It'll look like this. And what you want to do is create a virtual device. And what we're basically doing right now is picking the emulator of our choice. Now, honestly, it doesn't really matter which emulator you get. You could get the Pixel 4. It's much fancier, it's bigger. If your computer can handle it, you can do Pixel 4. But since I'm recording and on Android Studio, I don't want my laptop to explode, so I'm gonna use the Pixel 2. Click next, and click next again, and then click finish. Okay, so now we have virtual devices downloaded right here. Just exit out, and that's awesome. We have our emulator, and I want to kind of briefly talk about what we have here. So if you opened up your Android Studio and it looked like this, don't worry. Just click app, then click Java, click the first folder, and this is our main activity class. This is completely written in Java. This is sort of like the main method. This is a control center. This is where the magic happens. Now, another important file that we need to know about is under resources layout and is called activity main.xml. Now, main activity and activity main are directly linked to each other. So the XML file is basically what the user sees, it's the visuals, and it's what the user interacts with. The main activity Java class is sort of the inner workings, it's how those buttons functions, and just the back portion of the user interface. We will be doing most of our coding here and most of our design in here. And actually, if we click this green play button, it will boot up our emulator. And since it's our first time installing the emulator, it needs some time to set itself up. So it'll take quite a bit actually, but yeah, don't worry. You might get messages like these if you have some games that or something, but don't worry, just ignore it. So it's booting up. That's awesome. This only happens the first time. After this, it gets much faster. Okay, so I'm going to cut to the end of this so you guys don't have to sit and wait through all of this. See y'all in a bit. So as you can see, once it's fully booted up, we see exactly what we see on this
activity_main.xml. So I'm going to close this down for now by clicking this X button. Alright, so now that we have everything set up, we can begin our carrot clicker project. So for this project, as a bit of a background, Hopper, this fellow over here, is collecting carrots to store in their database. Help them generate carrots to count. So our tasks for this is to create a start page that will lead us to the carrot clicker screen and also back, and also to create a button that increments the number of carrots by 1. I will also be teaching you guys how to add buttons, text, and background colors to snazz up the app. Alright, so let's get started. If we head over to this app section, then click Resources, Layout, click Activity Main.xml, we'll be taken to this screen. Now to get this split screen, you want to click this button right here, and it'll split your screen from coding and a design perspective. Now, let's go up here and change this to a linear layout. Now, the first thing I want to do is add image. So you want to click this button that says palette and this button that says component tree. And since I do want a little bit more room for the designing portion, I'm going to click this button, design. Okay, I want to change this linear layout to convert orientation to vertical. So now I want to import in some images of Hopper and a carrot, so I would have to put that in a specific directory. And the way we do that is open File Explorer, go to the Windows C drive, click Users, find Android Studio Projects, click the app that you're working on, click App, Source, Main, Resources, Drawable, and drag in the images that you want. Now I'm going to change the naming of this image because we can't name images with capitalized first letters. So I'm going to change this to Hopper. And then go back to Android Studio, drag in an image view right above the text view, just like so, and put in Hopper. So this is quite big, but it's okay because if we drag this bottom corner, we can actually resize it so that it's a bit smaller. I want Hopper to kind of be popping out of this little corner, so if I go to split screen, I can change not only the width, but also the height, as well as the rotation of this image. I type in rotation, click tab, it's right there, and let's try 75. That looks good to me. Now, for this text view, if I zoom in a little closer, you can see it says Hello World, and we can actually change what this says by changing this line over here, and I want it to say, Welcome to Carrot Clicker. I also can change the font of this. If I click Attributes, let me actually go to the Design tab and now click Attributes. If I scroll down enough, I can find the font family. Let's go for monospace. That's pretty nice. And I want this to be a little bit further down from the Hopper image, so I can actually set a margin like so. Margin top, and this basically will set a margin from the Hopper image and the text view.
I can put in 150 SP. SP is basically the units. DP also works. Now to make this centered, we kind of just want to drag this out over here, and that is centered. I also would like to make this font size a little bit bigger, so all I have to do is type in text size, type in the size I want. Let's go for 30. That's pretty nice. And I think I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So now I'm going to add a button. And this button will take us to the actual physical clicker portion of the app, since this is just the front page of our app. So if we type over here, we can type start, and that should say start. Now I also want to rename the IDs of these text views and buttons so that I can refer back to them easier. I'm going to rename this to BTN start, and this text view to at ID TV, short for text view, TV actually we don't need that. Alright, so now we kind of have our front page done. I am pretty satisfied with it. We can go back and customize it later on, but for now this looks good. Now we can edit the Java portion, which will be under Java, this file over here, main activity. Alright, so now I'm in the main activity class, and what I want to do is initialize that button that I made earlier called btn start, just by typing button btn start equals to find view by ID, parentheses r.id.btn start. This helps the program find that button that we are talking about. Now, to actually call on that button, we need this method called btn start, which is basically the name of your button, and then dot set on click listener. And parentheses new view, and then we click tab, and it writes all of that for us. So this method essentially listens for when the user clicks the start button and pretty much activates whatever's inside here. So there should be a semicolon over here. So for right now, we'll leave this blank, but we'll come back to this in a bit. So we want to create our next screen, and to do that, we want to go up here, right click this, hover over new, go to activity, and create a new empty activity. Now what this does is it will create a new Java class and a new activity main XML. So these two are linked to each other, just like how main activity and activity underscore main are linked to each other. So in the activity main2 class, or XML file, we want the actual physical counter. And just like how we did on the first XML file, we're going to go into code and change this constraint layout into a linear layout. I'm going to do a split design again, and I'm going to change this linear layout to convert it to a vertical. So the first thing I want here is an image of a carrot. I'll put it right under linear layout, click the carrot, and again it's pretty big, so we can adjust that either by dragging it or by changing its size in here. I think I will try 120. DP also works. And 150. That looks pretty decent. Now I do want it to be a little bit down from the top, so margin top 10 dp. Maybe a little bit more actually. Okay, that looks alright. So after the image, I want the actual physical counter, and that is going to be a text view, so I'll put that right under. And you can see it over here, but it's quite small. If I click Control and use the scroll wheel, you can scroll in and out. And if you click space, you can drag it up and down. So now we have our text view, and I'm going to want it to start off with 0, so I'm going to put 0. I also want this text view to be in the middle, so I'm going to click Design, scroll down a little bit, click this button, and now it's in the middle. I'm going to go back to the split view design, and I do want this to be a lot bigger, so text size, change it to 40 SP. I also want this caret to be in the middle, so drag this all the way to the end, and now it's at the middle. Alright, so now what I want to do is add the actual button that will basically increment this value over here. I'm going to change this button to btn add, and change the button to say add. Now I want another button right under, and I want this button to take us back to the start screen, aka this screen, and I want to label it btn back and call the text back. So we have this done. We want to go into main activity 2.java now and start initializing our variables. So to initialize the button, we do button btn add equals to find view by id r.id.btn add, which is what we called our button, and we can just copy and paste this and do the same thing for the back button. And for the text view, we type in text view. I don't think I named it, so I'm going to go ahead and name this TV counter. TV is text view for short. And go back here and write TV counter. I tend to like to keep the variable name for the class and the variable name for the .xml file the same, just because it's easier to reference back later on. And we also define view by id, parentheses r.id.tv counter, semicolon. Now, just like the button we have in main activity with the .set on click listener, we also want to do that for these two buttons. So btn add .set on click listener, new view tab, and also do the same thing for btn back .set on click listener, new view tab. Awesome. So now our next task is to make this button actually function. So if I were to start the emulator right now, the button doesn't do anything because there's nothing actually in the set on click listener of btn start. Okay, it finally loaded, and as you can see, if I click this button, it doesn't do anything. That's because there's nothing inside of this set on click listener, so it won't do anything. So we want to change that so that when we click this button, it will take us to this page. And to do that, we need something called an intent. So to create an intent, all we need to do is type intent, and then we name the intent. I'm just going to call it intent equals to new intent. And you type the Java class that you're starting from. In our case, it's main activity. And then you want to put this, comma, and then you put the activity that you want to go to, which will be main activity 2 dot class, colon. Now to run this intent, we need to type start activity intent, and now when we click this button, it should take us to this screen. And let's test that out. We have to reopen our emulator, and that will take a second, so let's try this again. Alright, so when we so when we click this button, click start, it takes us to this page. So that's working. Now these two buttons also don't do anything because we haven't coded anything in. So let's do that right now. So if we go to our main activity2.java, we want to make a functioning counter app. And to have a counter, we need a private variable for this specific class. So I'm going to create a variable, an integer called mCounter, and we set it equal to 0. Now, what we want it to do is that whenever we click this add button, we want this text view to increment by 1. So we can do mCounter ++ and then write tvCounter dot set text integer dot toString mCounter, and then a semicolon. So basically what this does is when you click the add button, this mCounter will increment by 1. So it'll go from 0 to 1. And then we're setting our text view tvCounter.setText to whatever is in the mCounter. Now remember, the mCounter is an integer, and we have to change that to a string so that it can print out. So we use this integer.toString. And now, if we reset our emulator and open it up again, our add button should increment the text view. So start, add, here you go. Now, for the back button is very similar to the start button, except instead of going to main activity 2, we're going to main activity. And to do that, we also need an intent. So intent, I'm going to call this intent equals to new intent. Uh-oh, my screen just froze. I don't have the best laptop. Okay, so new intent main activity 2 dot this, and main activity dot class, and don't forget to start the intent by writing start activity intent colon. So now, again, if we run this, if we click start,
it'll go to this page. You can click add, it'll increment. If we go back, it'll take us to the main page. Awesome. That works. Okay, that's awesome. So now our app is fully functioning, and all we need to do now is do a little bit of customization. So to customize, we just do everything in the .xml file. So the first thing I want to do is change the background color. And to do that, we need to actually select the background, and then now we can change the color of this. I'm going to change this so that it is completely opaque. There we go. Let's see, what type of color do I want? Let's go for this color is nice. And we can also change the color of these buttons. If we go into values, colors.xml, and we change this value. Now, if you have a hex code for it, you can just type that in. If you don't, there are hex code generators online which you can use, and I have one just written down. And this is the color I want. So if we go back to activity main 2, you can see that these are now the color that I want. They're bluey. They're like an aquamarine color. And you can see if we go to activity main, it also changed the color of this button. So basically what colors.xml is, it's sort of a storage of all the colors that you have in your application, so that if you want to reuse a certain color, you don't have to input it, you just put in this value, and that's pretty cool. But you could also manually change it. It's just more work, and this is easier. So now I want to change the sizing of these buttons. I don't want it to go all the way to extend. I don't want it to extend from width to width. So to change that, you can go in split view, go to the button, and we can set left and right margins. So left, margin left, and let's do 100. Okay, and on the right side as well, tab 100 dp. That's pretty nice. I can copy and paste this and put it for the next button, and also do the same for this button over here. That's nice. I also want to change the color of this background, so all I have to do is click the background of this, click attributes, and actually let's go back to activity main 2, find the hex code, which is right here, Control C, go back to activity main, search for background, and just paste it in without the oops. There we go. And now if we run our emulator one more time, I think we should have our working clicker app. Let's see how it goes. So we have our little hopper over here. We have our welcome to caret clicker sign. We have a start button. And our add button is functioning. You can tap this however many times you want, maybe until our fingers fall off, maybe not, because we don't want to go to the ambulance. And if we click back, it takes us back to the start page, and if we want to go back to the caret clicker app, we can just click start, and bam, So I hope you guys found this Android workshop helpful. I hope you learned a few things here and there. We talked about how to create buttons, how to customize, um, and basically all the sort of introduction things out there. So thank you for coming and have an amazing day.